Hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and I have a brand new Easy Postage printable collection hitting my website today. So this is the Ice Cream Time collection, and there are a couple things that make this collection super special. The first is that it's been inspired by my crafty friend, Carrie Rhodes. So a big thank you to Carrie. She helped me to source the assets and the images for this collection, and I did my little Photoshop magic to actually put them together and create some really fun postage stamp designs. And as well, there's a set of sentiments that is also part of this collection. Super, super cute, just in time for summer, and you can make some really fun cards, especially if you have the Easy Wonder die number 3, or even if you don't, you can help yourself to this version right at the top here. This is what I call the Easy Guide version, and whenever I launch a new collection of Easy Postage printables, the Easy Guide version will be free and the full collection will be discounted. So at this moment, you can get this, exactly what you see here, for free. And it's a digital printable, a PDF file that you can download and print as many times as you'd like and craft with it. And I hope if you craft with it and you share on social media that you'll tag me at LV Handcrafted so I can see what you've made. Now, let me show you the full collection, and I'm going to share with you the second thing that makes this super special. So what I have here in the Easy Guide version is this portion here has been designed to be cut by the Easy Wonder die number 3. And you can see it looks a little bit odd because there's these images right in the center of some gorgeous pattern paper. But this has actually been designed so that when you line it up so that the little notch here where the banner flag fishtail end, that goes in the upper right corner. And when you line this up, what you'll get is this section here will cut out the postage grid background. And then each of these images lands in a very specific spot that will cut it perfectly so that you can inlay it right back into that postage grid and have a little fun stamp design there. And in this case, I used the add-on die set to cut out a matte layer so that I have a little bit of a border to go with these little designs here. So you can see that image came from here, that image came from there. And there's a third option that you can use here, but I opted not to use that one. And for this spot here, what I decided to do was I used one of the additional images from the printable, and I used the add-on die to cut that out. And then I used the add-on die to cut out my sentiment as well. So there's an example of how you would use the Easy Guide version. Of course, if you don't have the Easy Wonder dies, you might want to consider, you can still get these and craft with them. They've been scaled, sized, and clipped so that it's easy to cut them out with the add-on dies or with the Easy Wonder die itself. But that's, I did make 2 additional extra printables, and these are for everybody to craft with. If you have the Easy Wonder dies, you can still use these, but what you'll notice is that you're going to get the full image. So instead of this being super clipped so that it fits onto the postage grid, because you see, once you cut this with the add-on die, you don't really need all of the extra surrounding it. But look at the fun little detail that you miss out on. And so I felt like I really wanted to use this image in this nice large portion here. But to have it nice and large and fun, I would have to clip quite a bit off. And so you lose a little bit of that detail, but it's here for you, full size, and also full framed. in the extras. And so you'll find the extras. There are 2 of them for this collection. They are going to be in the full bundle. So at the moment, that is currently discounted. So you can get these at a discounted price, and it includes the Easy Guide plus the 2 extras. So the Easy Guide, if you just want that, help yourself to it. It's free for now, and it includes the main image here to be cut with your main Easy Wonder die number 3, and then you get 10 additional little postage stamp designs, 2 full sets, because your postage grid can fit 5 of these little designs here, and so you're going to get 2 full sets. For the extras, they each come with gorgeous pattern paper, large enough to be cut with your Easy Wonder die. So you can still use this as a background for your Easy Wonder postage grid. And each of them has a set of 5 designs that you can use as postage stamps to fill out your postage grid. And so you've got those there waiting for you. Now, this collection also has some fun sentiments that are all ice cream themed. So I think this is, I think some of my favorites have to be ice cream is cheaper than therapy, or I don't need therapy, I have ice cream. I think that's fun. Ice cream solves everything. Life is short. Eat more ice cream. Sweet treats and summer heat. So really, really love all of these fun sentiments. And this is sold separately if you want to help yourself to that as well. So everything will be linked to in the description box below. So big thank you to Carrie for being the inspiration and helping to collaborate on this new collection. Now, what I want to share with everybody, what I've started to do, because I do get asked and I love to pass on my suggestions for printer and paper now that I'm really happy and getting super consistent results. So I feel good about this recommendation. And I have started to actually include links to the printer that I use and a couple of paper choices in the product listings for the Postage Printable. So if you're ever interested in what I use to print in terms of the printer and the paper, then just open the description product listing for some of the more recent Postage Printables. I don't think I went back and did all of them, but the more recent ones for sure have it. And those links, they'll take you to Amazon, which I am a influencer, so that does earn me a little bit of a commission if you do end up purchasing on Amazon. So firstly, the printer that I use, it was highly recommended to me by many other people. Lots of crafters who like to craft with digital papers recommended it to me. And it's the EcoTank ET2850. I have a pretty low end, I think 2800 might be like the lowest end EcoTank that you can get. And so it's not super duper fancy, not super expensive. I got it on sale at Costco for under $200. So, and that was like a few years ago. So it may even be less now, but it's easy to find. Costco has it, Amazon has it. And so you might be able to catch yourself a deal on one of them. Now, initially when I got the printer, there were a couple things that I didn't 100% understand about printer settings. And normally all I do is I just pick the highest quality, and then that's it. I didn't really pay super close attention to picking the correct paper type. And as it turns out, that's kind of important. I just always assumed that if I put the best paper that I have, which is the Hammermill, and okay, so here's the thing. The Hammermill paper that I use, it's really good. It's the Hammermill digital color copy paper. I would have figured that it would be perfect for printing on. And I love it for my alcohol marker coloring. I love it for my ink blending. It's what I consider the best paper cardstock that I have in terms of white cardstock. And so I was really sort of bummed that even on high setting, this is what I get printing on my hammer mill. And you can, if you look at this by itself, this had it struggled a little bit feeding through initially, so it actually started a little bit midway in, or not midway in, but it chopped off a little bit at the top. But to look at this by itself, not too bad, right? Pretty decent. But I wasn't super happy about it. I wasn't super blown away. I didn't understand why everybody raved so much about the Eco Tank, to be honest. And I was just not really thrilled about it. And I had the idea to make these postage printables, but I really felt like until I could figure out how to print them myself and be really happy with the results I was getting, I didn't want to put this out there. But I got some really great suggestions, and maybe the number one suggestion that I got was the type of paper that you use really matters. And I got a couple of suggestions, but the one that really worked for me is and I think my recommendation, I'm going to show you a couple different brands, but you can kind of see the difference between this hammer mill and this, which is Koala brand. I'll show you the actual packaging of the brand, but I just wanted to show the difference. Like, to see this on its own, not too bad, right? But once you put it next to this paper, look how much more crisp this is, how much more bright it feels, how saturated the colors feel. This feels very muted by comparison, and there isn't as much like difference between the bright highlights and the darker shadows. It just all feels very flat almost. This feels like it's super dimensional and really kind of just makes a night and day difference, I feel. Now, when you're comparing this part, you know, this upper part, it doesn't actually feel too different to me. It looks really nice. I would easily craft with that, and I would have a really hard time distinguishing between these two. So part of it, I feel, it depends also on the types of things that you're printing. Are you printing something that has a lot of high contrast? And in that case, you might need to use a specific quality or type of paper versus something that is more of an all-over pattern. And there's some subtle differences, but by and large, I feel like these aren't too different from one another. So that's just a little bit of a compare and contrast. So this was hammer mill, and my big recommendation is, before spending more money on a different printer, my recommendation would be to whatever brand printer you have, try to get their best paper. And look for something, for example, like a presentation paper, because if it's the same brand as your printer, it's more likely that they've tested it, right? They have access to their papers, they have access to their printers, and if you're gonna stay within the same brand, they're gonna for sure, I would think, really quality test to make sure that it looks really good. And so my recommendation is, whatever type of printer you have, whether it's an Epson, whether it's an HP or a Canon, look to see if they make a like a premium paper. And I would definitely recommend something heavyweight if you're going to die cut it. Like I like to use these printed postage printables for. I die cut them with my easy dies and the add-on dies. Now, this isn't a super heavyweight. It says heavyweight, but really it's not heavyweight. It's just heavyweight when you compare it to like text, like copy paper. Because in actuality, this is only 48-pound cover weight. most of my layering weight cardstock is probably around 65 pound or so. And I think most pattern papers are probably around 65 or 80 pound cover weight. So this is lighter weight than even what I would consider lightweight cardstock, but it's good stuff. And because it's the same brand as my Epson paper or my Epson printer, I have really started to get better results. And so here I'll also show you, even with black and white, this is black and white on at my this exact paper here, the premium. And by the way, they make a presentation paper mat. The premium one is the one that's a little bit heavier weight, whereas just presentation is more like copy paper. But look at the difference between these two. This is Hammermill, and this is the premium presentation paper. So even just black and white, you can kind of see there's a difference. On the left is the Epson paper, very, very black, pitch black. And on the right is my Hammermill paper, which kind of looks like a very charcoal, a very dark gray. And on its own, you probably wouldn't be able to notice on a card. So here, for example, this is actually the Hammermill. And you really can't tell in the context of all of the colors surrounding it. Kind of hard to tell, but look at how it compares when I actually print onto a nice premium paper that is the same brand as my printer. So that's one difference. My first suggestion is whatever printer brand you already have, before going out and getting something new, just try whatever brand paper they make that they would regard as something equivalent to a premium or a presentation paper. So that's where I started, and I started to get really good results. Now, the other thing that you want to make sure of is that the printer for the Epson, now I might be speaking specifically for how the EcoTank is set up, but on the Epson EcoTank printer itself, you can actually tell the printer what type of paper is loaded into the printer. And it gives you lots of options: plain paper, premium presentation paper, etc. Now, what I was doing was, at one point I was using Hammermill paper, getting results like these, and I thought maybe I'll just trick my printer into thinking it's printing on premium paper, because the Hammermill paper is supposed to be really good. So I picked the premium presentation paper, even though that's not what was actually in the printer, and it doesn't help. Your printer won't be fooled, and actually it looked worse. So don't, you could try and experiment because it's just paper, but from my experimentation, my printer was not fooled. So I told the I chose the setting on the printer that says that what's loaded is premium presentation paper, but what was really loaded in the printer was my Hammermill, and it looked worse than this. And so however they've calibrated it for this paper, it's very specific for their paper, and so it did not work well at all. It looked, noticeably, markedly worse than this. So if you don't have your, you do want to look at your printer settings and see what options you have in terms of paper type, and choose the one that actually is the best fit for what you're loading in there. And in the case of the EcoTank, When you go to print and you have that print dialog, you have to choose the paper type there from your computer, but then you also, on the printer itself, have to tell the printer what type of paper. And when those two things are the same, it's when you get the best result. So for my hammer mill, I just chose plain paper because there's nothing specially formulated, by Epson EcoTank to take hammer mill paper, of course. So there's no special setting for hammer mill. So you just have to choose plain paper in that case. So that's one first tip. My second tip is once you have figured out, if this is a good option for you, stick with it. But once you know your printer settings are good and that it's working for you, what I've started to do is just kind of explore a little bit. And so I found this. This is Koala double-sided matte photo paper. It's the same 48-pound cover weight. I get 100 of them, which is double the amount of sheets that I get in the Epson Premium presentation paper, and it's only like a couple dollars more. So this pack normally on Amazon, if I can't find it at a sale or if it hasn't it's not on like a prime deal, for example, it's usually about $14, but I have seen it as low as $9. So the price does fluctuate quite a bit on Amazon, but most of the time it's hovering around $14. This, for double the quantity, is around $16, I think, between $16 and $17. So it's only like a few bucks more, but you get double the amount. And so far, this has been working really, really well. And so photo paper is another sort of keyword that you might want to search for, because a lot of times photo paper is when people want like the best quality image. And so right now, this is the one I'm using quite a lot. And if you want to sort of see a little bit of a comparison, there's a little bit of a difference in, I can actually show you. It's more noticeable if you flip to the back. See how this does not look like the same shade of white as this. And this is the Koala brand paper. It's more of like a cool, it almost looks grayish, but it's more like a cool white. Whereas this looks almost like a more warmish, but it's not yellowy at all. They're both pretty bright white, but you know how sometimes when you get like a light bulb and you have a warm light, a warm white light bulb versus a cool white, this is what that sort of reminds me of. This looks more like a cool white and this looks more like a warm white. But when I'm using things like pattern paper, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to really see the white at all. And so with images and things like that, I don't really mind using the koala paper because it's not really meant to have any of the white showing. Unless, of course, you start using Carrie's trick where you take the medium-sized die and you cut this out. But by and large, these were designed so that it's full color, full bleed color. However, something like the sentiments, quite a lot of the white is showing and there's no color. And so for sure, when I print out my sentiments, I do like to print it onto the Epson Premium presentation paper because I prefer this white. It's a lot closer actually to the hammer mill. So this is my hammer mill right here. And you can see it's such a nice, bright white. It's more white than even that. And that's why I thought hammer mill is like my best cardstock. It's super smooth. It's bright white. But when you start to print color onto this, it just doesn't have that same like wow factor. like these other papers do. So that's that's definitely one thing to consider is when you're looking at your papers, and you won't really know until, you watch videos like these, or you just buy it and you bring it home and you look at it and see what, how it performs, how it differs, and how you like it. And a lot of it is personal preference, because maybe you prefer the more cool tone papers. But I know in my crafting, because I use a lot of, accent opaque for card bases, and I use hammer mill for card bases, I definitely want to make sure that I'm using the sentiments printed onto a white that most closely resembles the white of my card bases, because when it's showing something that's off white, like, I think it's more noticeable. I think the clash is a little bit noticeable. So you can avoid that by maybe picking out a paper that is just natively a little bit closer to the white of your cardstock that you normally use. So those are a couple tips. The other thing that I discovered, and I don't know if all printers have this option, but I discovered with the EcoTank that you actually have some options for managing the color settings, and you can actually adjust the color settings on your printer when you go to print. And so there are a couple key settings that if I tweaked this a little bit, I could probably get it to print kind of close to this. With these prints, it's really super simple. I just print on the highest quality, and with the Koala brand, I just print it on the plain paper setting, and I just put it on high quality, and I don't do any adjustments at all, and it just works beautifully. And I prefer that. So the fewer little tweaks and adjustments, the better, because it'll be easier for me to remember. But there are some color adjustments that you can make, and at least with the EcoTank, you can actually dial up the color saturation and what they call color density. And so it takes something like this, which looks kind of muted, and if I bump up the saturation setting on the EcoTank, when you go to print, you can go to color management. And if you have all the Epson printer drivers and everything, you'll be able to see these settings yourself. And you can bump up the density and the saturation. And that might help to bring it a little bit closer to how it just prints natively when you're using the right papers. So this, it's in and of itself is not necessarily sort of a lost cause, so to speak, but it is a case where you might have to do a little bit of trial and error. You might have to like adjust the settings, print, adjust, readjust, etc. until it looks right. And so you might burn through, maybe a couple sheets. And then once you find the right setting, usually you can save that printer setting. And that way, when you use that same type of paper again, in theory, you should be able to apply all the same printer settings, and it will consistently give you good results, or at least the results that you've tweaked it and tuned it to give you. So those are the couple of tips that I have, and I hope that helps you if you are interested in crafting with any printables. This advice isn't specific to just my easy postage printables. It's really applicable to any printables that you may have. And I am not sponsored by any of these companies. So this is just me passing on what works for me. And I know some folks have asked, and so that's why I just want to put it out there. But if you appreciate the advice, I hope you'll shop my links. When you go to shop the printables, you'll find links to the EcoTank, the Epson Premium presentation paper, and the Koala matte photo paper. All of those should be in the product listings for my easy postage printables. So there you have it, the new Ice Cream Time collection inspired by Carrie Rhodes. Get it now while it's free. Eventually, it's going to return to regular price. All of the links to everything will be in the description box below. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day.